All right, in an effort to bring up quiz grades, I'm doing a quick quiz review on Quiz 12. Quiz 12 is over two major things. It's over imperialism and the progressive era. With imperialism, the big year you want to know is 1898, and that is because most of the United States imperialism really takes place starting in 1898 with the Spanish-American War. The U.S. gets major territory after defeating the Spanish in the Spanish-American War. The big cause was the USS Maine was exploded. It was actually an accident, but we thought that the Spanish did it. And because of that, we went to war with Spain, and we're going to get all of Spain's territories after it: Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and Guam. Now, Puerto Rico and Guam to this day are U.S. territories. Nothing has really changed. Cuba was immediately given independence by the United States, although we still had different levels of control. And then the Philippines was the most controversial of these territories at the time. And the reason for why that was is mainly the distance. If you look at this map right here, you know, Cuba, Puerto Rico, they're very, very close by. Guam's over here. But the Philippines was very, very far away, but it was also pretty crucial. And because of that, the United States was not willing to give it up. Another reason why it was controversial was that the Filipino people wanted their own country. They were very upset that they did not get their own country. They did not feel like they were American in any way, shape, or form. And so they were led by this guy, Emilio Aguinaldo, in this war to try to get Filipino independence. It is going to work, but it's going to take many years. In 1946 is going to be when the Philippines becomes its own country. Now, the reason for imperialism, there's three different reasons. The first was economic opportunities, and most of this relied around getting to China. And that's why the Philippines were so crucially important, because you can see back on this map right here that China is really, really close to the Philippines. So we could park in the Philippines, refuel, and then make it to China very easily. This is another reason why we wanted the Panama Canal, was so that we could get over to China much quicker and not have to go underneath South America. Military development is also going to be really, really big. It's why we established Pearl Harbor at Hawaii, and we also had Guantanamo Bay. We still have Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Even though Cuba was freed, we still kept military bases there. And then you could also link the Panama Canal for this military development, because it allowed for us to get our military over to the Pacific Ocean much faster. And the final thing was natural resources, which is mainly sugar. Puerto Rico had big sugar plantations. Hawaii has big sugar plantations. They also have big pineapple and fruit exports. To this day, we still get a crazy amount of pineapple from Hawaii. Hawaii makes something like 90% of the pineapple for the world. It's nuts. All right, the progressive movement. The definition, or what the progressive movement really wanted to do, was they wanted the government to use their power to regulate industry, production, and labor. So they wanted to control businesses. Going into the progressive era, we have a callback to the Gilded Age. The opposite was taking place. The government wasn't using its power to regulate. It was more of these big monopolies using their power to regulate the government. And so they wanted this power switch to take place, where the government would control these big companies and honestly protect labor. One of the ways that this is going to happen is the environmentalist movement. Urban cities were growing at a very, very fast rate, and so people were afraid that the wild wouldn't be wild anymore, so that there needed to be land that would protect it. Two big people that helped do that. One guy was named John Muir, and then you had Teddy Roosevelt as president, established national park systems, the Reclamation Lands Act, to have the United States control more federal land and protect it from development. One of the big things to come out of the progressive era is going to be, though, these four amendments called the Progressive Era Amendments. So the first is the 16th Amendment. It's the income tax. It's to control wealth. So it was a progressive tax. So wealthy people would be taxed to kind of help out lower income people. Next is the 17th Amendment. This is to try to get rid of corruption. You know, these big businesses got to choose kind of who the senators would be, and so those senators would listen to them. Now, everyday average people are going to get to elect senators, and so those senators would listen to average people, theoretically, more than businesses. 18th Amendment is prohibition of alcohol. This was a moral reform movement that had been going on since the Second Great Awakening, so no more alcohol. And then the 19th Amendment was women's right to vote. So again, this idea of democracy expanding to women. One of the big movers during this progressive era were muckrakers. And muckrakers were really, really popular journalists, and they were really popular because of newspapers. Newspapers were the dominant trade. And so they went after different targets that were kind of defined as very corrupt people. So example, they went after political machines like Boss Tweed. Ida Tarbell went after John Rockefeller, who was a monopolist. And then Upton Sinclair went after the lack of regulation and sanitary conditions for meat in his book called The Jungle. All right, and that is what you need to know for quiz 12. Good luck.